expecting at 1:30 Councillor Jon Rogers to come in, Lib Councillor, to explain what the likely future of this day centre is going to be, and to do his best to allay our fears and what we're going to do now that they're not going to fund us anymore. He's saying that, you know, he's not closing us down, but the funding is going to end in November or December, and we want to know, well, if he's not going to fund us any longer, how are we going to stay open? So those are the sorts of things that hopefully he will answer.
There's no place to grow old. A report by the Care Quality Commission into Care for the Elderly in the National Health Service exposed a scandalous catalogue of maltreatment. No one would deny that old age presents challenges, but the fading of a person's physical faculties does not diminish their standing as a human being. The elderly must not be treated as inferior, however tough times may be. And I think we all agree with that.
Yes.
The reason is not I'm here is certainly not to close this service. Certainly not to close this service. We'll be having a discussion with the organisers after this public meeting about what we can do to help them to make sure that this particular service continues. But the money that we are not going to be putting, the block contract money, into any services in the city over the next few years. It will all be going, all the money that will be going through personal budgets. People will actually decide themselves what they want to do with that personal budget. And it is difficult, it's a change, and a lot of people have said to me, you know, well my mum's, you know, she's not really able to make those decisions, but actually, you know, we will be there to help them, people make those decisions, decide what's best. You've got a fantastic service, there's no reason at all why it needs to close, assuming that you all want it to stay open. Yeah, and that's the situation. So I hope that you are somewhat reassured. I know that you won't be fully reassured. We are changing the way that we fund services. Instead of us we just pay a sum of money to this organisation and say, could you provide 50 places a day, whether people come to it or not. We're changing it so that anybody that comes who is eligible will get a budget and may choose to put that. They don't have to do it themselves. Our officers will actually organise all that for them, and we can then make sure that the service continues and can continue to grow and be more effective.
We would be happy to move to personal budgets. The problem is the security that does or doesn't give us. You've said that you know that there are 27 people here already known to you, already known to be needy. Those 27 people have not been, as far as we're aware, fully assessed, either in terms of need and then the second hurdle in terms of finances. And it's only if those people, sufficient people, have sufficient money to come, can we function. The second point is we are not a business. You know, we are a charity. We're part of the church. We're a small charity. We are not a business that can run loss leaders. You know, we need the money there in the bank 3 months ahead, all the time, securely, to pay our staff to keep running as we run. So I think I just want to take issue with you over your giving that figure of 27 people, because we don't actually know that those 27 people will have the money to come here, never mind the rest of the people. And as Andy says, you know, to run as a business, entrepreneurially, you know, our costs are going to have to rise enormously. And we already know, I know personally, through my family, people who have said, well, you know, I've been not in this city, I've been assessed, but, you know, I have to pay 83% of the cost. I can't afford that. That's actually the reality. And I think that this phrase, talking the talk, walking the walk, keeps coming to mind. You know, we can talk the talk about choice, dignity. Yes, we can keep going. It sounds, you know, you're putting across in a very optimistic way, but walking the walk is a very different story. And actually, before you go, I personally would very much appreciate, would you be able to give us a commitment that you will follow us through that entire process. Absolutely. So that you know where we get to. That's very grateful. Thank you.
For us For us not to close, it would mean all our service users being awarded a personal budget. Can you confirm that all our service users and everyone in this room will be assured a personal budget?
No, because I think it's actually an awful lot. There's quite a number of supporters and carers and so on here
Well,
as well.
for all our clients,
we don't know. But
without everyone having a personal budget, we will not be able to remain open.
I mean, one of the things that I mean, it looks like the cost per session is, I don't know, around about £27–28 per session for people to attend. That's how much it's coming out on there. It may well be. Sorry, have you got £32? Sorry. So it's that sort of sum of money.
I worked out to be £20.75.
I think if you include every single person, but on the basis of last year, I mean, there was a question. You've raised a question about the fact that the assessment of whether in fact you're amber or green was based on last year's figures, and they were updated. The officers have updated those, and what you're saying is actually if you updated them right to the minute, they would be even more favourable. The fact that you're red, amber or green is not actually what is being discussed here. All that we've done, and it has led to confusion, and I regret that, is that we've said that those organisations that happen to be red or amber will be the first people to go through a personalisation process. All the organisations which are currently green will go through the same process over the next year. So all that we've done is use this as a way of identifying a priority group, and you know, there are a lot of difficulties with any sort of change, but that is, in other words, even if you were to turn to green as a result of saying, well, actually, there's now 17 people or 18 people attending on average. Even if that was the case, we'd still be saying, okay, well, that will continue the funding until March 2012, when we will then be doing a personalisation process. So it does not, all it's done is meant that you are being assessed slightly sooner because of those figures, but they aren't the reason why the personalisation process is going on. And what we'd really like to do is to talk to you about, because what I'm getting from my officers, and I don't know exactly, you know, obviously I need to hear both sides of the story. I've only heard one, and that's why I'm here today, is I want to hear your side of the story. But my understanding from the officers is that they have explained that they need to move to a personalisation budget, a personal budget for people who attend, and we need to work with your organisation to make sure that the service is available for people who need that service.
The problem is there are people who use and need this service who will not get a personal budget. That's the problem. And that's then funding we will not receive.
Well, I don't know what numbers you're talking about, but if people don't need a service, then it's wrong possibly.
But
I mean, what
the fact of whether somebody gets a personal budget is not to say whether they need our service. It's just they don't get a personal budget.
I suppose, fair enough, but we don't know how. We have to assess on the personal budgets for people, and that's how you will get funding to keep this service going in the future. I would like to work with you and work with the officers.
Get a personal budget. I'm just letting the folks here know how the figures pan out, but we will not be able to remain.
Okay, well, if that is the way you want to play it, then that seems unfortunate. But
they would all play it here. We're not playing with people's lives.
No. You're basically suggesting that we've said, and it's not something. This is not something that I'm the poor person, the poor sap, who's having to stand here explaining.
You're elected, you stand as an MP.
But it would
poor sap.
Sorry.
You're an elected official. Elected by the.
I'm here explaining. If there was any other, it wouldn't make any difference whether it was Labour, Conservative, Liberal Democrat, Green Party. It does not make any difference. The principle of personalisation has been agreed by all the parties, nationally and locally. So I'm just here helping to.
People when their day centre closes.
Well, I don't think it needs to close, and we need to have a discussion about why you think The day service needs to close if you can't get a personal budget for every single person here.
Is that three of our staff, their notices expire at the end of this month. Now at that point, we either, if they wish, we can withdraw those notices, but we then have to give them 3 months more notice. And where are we going to get the money from that from? We hand to mouth. So that is a serious problem, and that's, I think we can talk about that one after this meeting, when the committee meets you.
Councillor Rogers, as a qualified medical practitioner, are you and your colleagues able to be flexible enough to embrace the concept of preventative medicine for people who may not have swept over into that place of great need, but are on the verge, and places like this prevent them from going into hospital and taking up many more valuable and expensive
Very definitely. I'm wholly on board with that, and we are actually trying to increase the amount of preventive services in the city. But to do that, we have to make sure that the funding is going where it needs to go. The other thing to point out, and it was raised by the manager, was saying that we don't know whether the number of people that are attending would actually meet the criteria. It may be there are a lot of other people out there who would really benefit from this service, and we can encourage those people to come here. So there's lots of issues. The bottom line is that we have a policy which is that we have a personalisation which is a national policy. We haven't got a choice about it. I haven't got a choice about it. It is something which is absolutely explicitly required of all councils across the country. It's not something I can say, oh, let's not have a personal budget. Let's just make sure you carry on with a block contract. I don't have that choice. What I do have is the ability, and I've got some fantastically skilled officers who will work with me to make sure that every single person who needs the service will be able to get the service. I'm very disappointed to hear that the organisation wants to close or is considering closing it. We don't need to do that. We genuinely don't, you know, we will need to have services like this for people who need them. And that is something which I'm happy to support. I'm certainly not here to try and defend closing the service, because there's absolutely no intention of closing it. What we're saying is that we're going to be funding it in a different way. And that is something I don't have any choice about. You don't have any choice about. The organisation, Trinity Day Services, doesn't have any choice about it. So it is something which is absolutely clear. It's happening, it's happening right across the country. It's been happening since 2005. It's not even a party political issue. It's something which everybody has to deal with in an adult, responsible way, which we're trying to do.
Gift to personal budgets is assuming that the clients want choice in general, which they do, but not necessarily positive choices. Rose is a local lass. She's lived here all her life, wouldn't live anywhere else, even though she's had personal tragedy here. What we're here for is the good times and the bad. As a day centre, we are there for the happy times, when you want to tell me about the gambling, yeah?
Yeah, love it, yeah.
And the sad times. And I know these things because Rose has chosen to stay here and stay with us. We talked earlier about possibly closing. The reason for that is because it's changing the dynamic. Instead of being a friends club for the elderly, for the things that they want and they need, it's changing it to a business. And some of the clients can't understand that logic. They don't want to search all over Bristol for a better club. Your home is here, isn't it, Rose?
That's right.
Your home is here. And we want to support that. Unfortunately, if we move to the personal budget model, we can't do that on the basis of illness, on the basis of clients who are confused by the model, because we're losing some of their friends. And if we say to Rose, Rose, you can come, but your friends can't, what do you say to that, Rose?
That's right, but it's up to all of us to do it as well.
All of you, yes.
All of us to try to come.
That's right. And we want them all here, not because it will make money, not because we particularly, have an interest in that, because they do. It's their friends, their community. And you're breaking that up with this new model. By transferring it to that model, you're asking each client to financially justify not just themselves, but all the other clients who have to pick up the slack when they're not there. And when I talk to Rose, I talk about her personality, the things that interest her. I don't want, and Rose wouldn't want, me to be talking about finances. It changes what I'm there for. That's right.
Terrible, yeah.
You don't want me talking about your money, do you?
No.
No.
What money have I got?
I'm going to find out because you're going to be minister. And that's the issue we face.
Trinity is going to close. We can't work under the suggested personal budget. What about my exercises here? I would not be eligible under the FACS, Fairer Access to Care Services, for any alternative, as I used to get from the Bristol Generals. As my exercise classes have been cut from there, where would I go? I have my nails and feet down here. It's all under one roof. My friends are here too. I've been diagnosed with MS, which I have had for 16 years, but I do not get them any. I have not been assessed for a personal budget. I would like to know about things that fall through the net, like myself. I'm still quite mobile and things like that, but I don't get any sort of help. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne.
I would like to say that it's not only a service being given in this premises, it is a care service for the whole of the district. And some of us are on the books under the care service, they don't actually come regularly to meals here. If I want anything done, I can phone up the day centre. They can come and put an electric light bulb in for me. They can put a cabinet back on the wall that's fallen down. It's that service as well as the meal service and the activities it might be here. We rely on this as well, but outside of these premises. It's not only inside of the premises, which I think a great miss for everybody here. But it's also it is a care service for the district as well. Not only, and so are all of us that going to be assessed outside of the building that need the care service?
Yes.
Are we going to be assessed individually for this? For these finances?
This question about who's going to be assessed and who's saying, anybody that has care needs can be assessed. All you have to do is to phone Care Direct, or a relative can phone, or one of your carers can phone. Phone them on 922-2700. You can literally do that today. It's available to everybody. I'm a GP down in Avonmouth. I'm very much aware that people need organisations like this to be able to support them, get them out of the house, often very isolated if you're not able to come to organisations like this. I'm aware that some people struggle with changing light bulbs, and it's good to have those sort of services available to support that. All those things are important things to have. The question is that I'm here today is to talk with the management committee specifically about how do we ensure that the excellent services which are so clearly needed continue. What I'm also clear about is it can't continue in the way that it has. Much as it'd be easy for me to say, oh, that's fine, well, let's carry on as we've done. We can't do that. It's just not possible. What we can do is we can work with the organisation in a constructive way. We can perhaps extend the time limit. We can do various things which we can discuss, and we'll discuss with the organisers afterwards. I'm not here, as I've said already, I am not here to close this service. I am here to make sure this service thrives if the residents want it. And everybody here is telling me that the residents want it. So it should be easy to make sure that happens.
Only if they get a personal budget. Only if they get a personal budget
then. Those people, if people...
Change the criteria, give everybody
Okay. Can I read a quote regarding the eligibility criteria? This is a quote from the information which has been given to the teams deciding that. Let me just find the correct word for it. The locality teams, they've been told that day services are often quite institutional and are becoming an outdated way of meeting social needs. So the people who are deciding this are already being told, briefed to spin, against day services like this, even if the clients want it. This is a direct quote from the information.
Can I get one of the officers to answer that specifically? I've not heard that. That sounds like rubbish to me, as I'm sure you agree.
I can provide you with the information. I have it here. I have taken out the name of the person who provided to me
I'd
because
just
it was
like to
given
say,
anonymous.
I just want to draw a distinction, if you like, between how assessment for eligibility and anything we might think about services and models of service are being dealt with. What the locality teams are being asked to do is to assess people, either people we know or people who are coming through Care Direct who we've never assessed before, against the set criteria, the FACS eligibility criteria, as you say, fair access to care services. That's very clear. That anyone who has a critical or substantial need for service, for support from the local authority will be entitled to it. What we have done in the past is to try and is to sort of say, well, you know, that means that, you know, you have a day service and that's the only choice you have. What we're trying to do now is to say if someone's eligible for a service, it doesn't mean they're only eligible for home care or a day service or whatever. We need to work with them to look at what is their interest, what do they need, what's the most important thing for them in their life. It might be maintaining contact with their friends, it might be, you know, taking up singing because they used to do that and haven't been able to do it. All sorts of things. We want to make a personalised response to people rather than say, just go to a day service. So, but the point of just, if I could just finish, sorry, if I could just finish the bit about what was written there, I think what we are trying to do is to move away from just buildings-based day services as being the only thing for people, because some people want something much smaller, more intimate, if you like, and more, you know, just a group of friends or whatever. Personalisation enables that to happen potentially.
Potentially, but will you go on record as saying that if the clients here choose to go down that particular model, because that is the happiest that they are with, that there will be no undue pressure or no financial stimulus put on them to choose against it? Because, as I say, I mean, you may take this with you. This is something that I was sent as the information given to the Bristol locality teams with regards to whether they would budget for, and just to explain to the clients, personal budget will say, you have these needs. They'll try and judge them, see which ones, as the lady has just said, are needs. And also on the individual things, whether they think that is efficient or a way that they wish to support supplying those needs. The information I've been given is that day centres are considered, as the quote says, often institutional and outdated. They will not include a figure for that within a personal budget which is given to you for the day centre. So you would either have to sacrifice part of the personal budget to it, to cover it, or pay for it out of your own pocket. Now, for the individual clients, some of them are extremely poor. It would literally be dividing them between those who could afford to come and those who couldn't. We could put the average price up for individuals, but that would be changing again the dynamic and expecting them to cover for illness and disability of other people. And that's making them say, how much do you value your friends? And that is a completely unfair way to treat our clients. They don't wish to be told, well, you can't come today because we haven't made the average budget. I'm sorry. Or you can come, but you'll owe us twice what you paid last week. It's simply not a model we can adapt to without destroying the very thing that they value.
I think I accept that it is difficult to change. What I'm quite clear about is that you don't actually have a choice over whether we move to a personal budget or whether we stick with the old block contract. There is no choice in that aspect. It is something that's happening nationally and locally. It has the support of all of the political parties. It is happening. What we're here to do is to make sure it happens in a way that ensures that every single one of you here gets the best possible service. And that may well be, although it's slightly disappointing to hear what the manager was saying, because certainly other places that we've had dealings with, they're carrying on. They're basically using this as a springboard to say, look, we have to make sure that we're actually reflecting the needs of the population. I don't know whether every old person that's in Hopwells who could benefit from this service is actually here. I don't know. I suspect there's a lot of people out there in Hopwells who currently aren't getting a service that they really need. And therefore, but with a personal budget, they will, and as long as we find out about them, make sure they do get a personal budget, they will then be given the opportunity to come here. In other words, you've got lots of people out there, I suspect, who would also want to join you here. And that is the sort of thing I'm looking for. I'm looking for a better service, I'm looking to continue the good services, and I'm certainly in no way wanting to close this centre down.
Can I ask, though, that these people in Hopwells who come to our door, do you think they would want to come to the day centre if the very first thing we ask them is, can you pay £37 a day to come? That's the problem. You're confronting them with a choice they don't wish to take, that most of them come here to get away from the stresses of budgeting and finance and constantly accounting for everything. They come here for a quiet day with relaxed friends.
Yeah, thank you. Just two things. Helen is wanting to speak in the corner, but there's two. The services that I think are working with personal budgets, they all have deep pockets basically. You've got Age UK, they are now. You've got the Bristol Charities operations. Two things, they have lots of investment income, they have that. And the other thing is, they're not in this area. They run centres way away from here. We are it in Hot Wells. We're over 4 days, we are it. There is no one else.
Rose is she hasn't already got a personal budget because she won't be here. We wouldn't dare take her. She's already a cost. So to actually get the support we give, it's a catch-22.
Sorry, not quite.
You mentioned we were expected to feed back to you as part of our service. Yeah. That's true. But if we don't know her, she won't be here in the first place because she'd have to have the funding up front before we would risk taking her because she's going to cost us money.
I think you'll find, I mean, if you say you have to have funding up front before you take her, I would suggest that's perhaps, you're there, you would be there to help people. And actually, if they're eligible, you'll be encouraging them to get funding. So, I really think there is some attitude issues in the way that you're approaching some of these.
How can we help her if we're on the personal budget model? Because we're on, as Andy said, a very limited pot of money. We wouldn't have the support there in the first place to do it. We have to be there in advance, not behind, ahead of the curve.
One of the things that we're going to do now is to talk to the management committee about how we make that transition. The key to this, it's not a case of, I hear everybody, I'm not denying that the message I've got is that we would like to stay exactly the same, we would like to carry on with a block contract, we don't want any changes to our service. I've heard that, I know that's it, and if I just said, oh, that's fine, let's do that, you'd all say, fantastic, he's listened, but I can't say that. What I can say is I will make sure that the services and the people's needs and the transition process is the best we can make it. I know the officers have got, at least one of the officers nodding by the side of me. Liz is sort of saying, yes, we are here to make sure that this process works well. It's already worked in quite a number of the organisations across the city. It's got to operate in every single service across the city over the next year or so. It's not, and it is difficult, I know. But I will make every effort to make sure that the services continue here. I have no reason there's no reason at all why they need to close. We need to make sure that you actually explore all the opportunities that the personal budget says. That's the situation.
Is that you've got people now that are going to assess everyone. These people have to be paid. And I'm sure their salaries will be something in the region of 83,000 a year, which is the budget for this this day centre. Well, you'd have to have at least 2 or 3 people assessing, and they won't do it for nothing. And you'd need £83,000 for the office, for central heating, for everything, So I just don't get it. This happens all the time with the council, with any sort of business. They can't see. They can't see ahead, all they can see is what they're going to do, but they don't sort of work out, that it's going to cost a lot more money, to run these things, rather than keep things as they are, which is running perfectly. And I mean perfectly. Everyone is happy here.
Yeah, sorry, we're getting up.
Our block funding is 83k per annum, isn't it? So can you tell me, what have you allowed for in the next full financial year for these personal budgets? What's the locality team's budget? 83,000.
The budgets for next year are not decided, and they won't be decided until February next year.
But you must have in your own mind some idea of what it's likely to be.
It's going to be
about. It's going to be slashed, isn't it?
There is the funding we are going to be allocating is the funding that is needed to provide the services. And everybody knows that there are cuts, there are savings being made. It is very, it's frustrating. We're having to make, 5–10% savings on the services. I can't say that it's 83,000 this year, therefore, all about 8%, no, it's going to be 75,000. I can't say that because I really genuinely don't know. It may be. I have no idea what that service is. What I can say is that those people with needs will be assessed, will get the service, and we'll make sure that they get those services. And I suspect there's quite a lot of other people outside who also need those services. And what I would like to do is to make sure that everybody who needs the services gets the services. And it is challenging trying to do it.
Say that when you tell me how much money you have. I don't get it.
Well,
for next financial year.
I'm confident that the way we are managing the service means that we can deliver the best possible services at the best value for money. And I am confident about that because I know the policies that we're doing, I know what they're proposing, know what they're doing. And we've got a situation, you know, the discussion here was very eloquently put by the lady here who said, you know, oh, well, you know, it'd be much better just carry on as it is. It isn't an option. It is not an option. We have to move from block contracts to personal budgets. We know we have to do that. Bristol is actually a long way behind on that.
Is the money moving from block?
Yes, oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I can guarantee the money is moving from block to things.
It's not just going to disappear down the hole.
No, I mean, you know, if that was the case, if it was the case that the £83,000 was coming out of here and going straight into my back pocket or into council taxpayers' money, then there would be no money to fund this service. But there is going to be money to fund this service. What we need to make sure is that the way in which it is delivered, that we have to make sure that 83,000 joins the other. My budget currently is £145 million a year. That's the social care budget I'm currently responsible for. And that, so you can actually do an awful lot with £145 million. What I need to make sure is that we do the best possible with that 145, and not only all the people here continue to get the services they need, but also people who I know as a GP, there are people outside this room that also need services in places like this. And that's the challenge, is to improve the services, but still keep within budget. And it is a challenge, but you know, we have to do it.
But social